please.
Joe Marie Nelson,
Here.
Jill Kravitz here, Brian Peruta,
He's on his way.
John Ungary,
Here.
Joseph Albert, Roby Staples, and Joseph Perillo.
Present.
Okay. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Next item is executive session. We don't have anything, Jose.
There are no items for executive session.
Okay. Public participation, issues of concern that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the commission? Okay. Public hearings, we have none scheduled for tonight. Correspondence.
You have a number of notice of actions from the meetings of the Planning and Zoning Commission that have occurred since your last meeting. You also have the October and November inspection reports for the Post Office Road, Town Farm Road reconstruction in your packets. And then there's a letter from CLMP to the commissions regarding 2012 proposed vegetation management and right-of-ways. It's a required notice. Also in your packets, in your folders this evening, that just came in today, was a late winter issue of the Habitat. And I haven't had a chance to look through it, so I don't know what's in it, but that came in, and I just updated, well, I haven't updated, but I reprinted in case on that active project list. I think there's one we need to add. The New England Wetlands 548. Any questions on the correspondence?
I do. The CLMP, I read through their letter regarding the 2012 proposed vegetation management in the right-of-ways. According to this little map on the last page, is that the highlighted area? Is that all they're going to be doing right in the corner of, I guess it's like Route 5 in East Windsor, Enfield border? Wasn't very clear to me, I think. Is that all they're proposing to do? Or,
No, I think the whole transmission line that goes through there, what are you, the one up there?
right, the
Don't
only
know.
part that's highlighted.
It's the only part that's in Enfield.
That could be it.
That's the only part that's in Enfield.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at the rest of this. I thought you were talking about the gloves. I missed that whole other one. So that must be the only one scheduled in 2012. The
So
other
they
ones
don't
must...
actually give you the street names where they're working? They just
No,
give you a
That's
little
on
map?
that's off of Pleasant. It's the transmission line that looks like it runs across Pleasant and then into then down 91.
Okay,
But it doesn't even look like it's going that far. It just looks
right.
it's a small section in the, yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
just an Enfield. It may, East Windsor might have got the rest of it. So it just goes from Pleasant Street, across Pleasant Street down to the Enfield line. And I'm assuming it's going to go
Okay,
beyond that. So they must tackle a certain part of their right-of-way system every year
okay.
in terms of making sure they can survey it from aerial and be able to access it quickly in case of emergency.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, we're all set. Commissioners' correspondence? Does anybody have any updates, site visits, any communication? We haven't met since November?
Yeah, if anybody's been out there and seen something they want us to look at or question, this is the time to do that.
Go ahead, Joe.
As Nantucket Street, has Pia Hawk said anything about when they're supposed to start that project?
Pia's no longer with us, so.
Oh, okay.
No, the last I did it, last time I raised it at a staff meeting, there were still some issues as to who owns the property and whether we even had any, rights to go on there, and I think it was still up in legal limbo. It's
What
it's
it's
becoming a
going to
problem.
happen to us legally is my worry when it turns into mudslides over there.
Yeah, it's a concern. It's not a situation that's getting any better. And I don't know if the sense I got, it wasn't the towns so much as trying to get the homeowner to sign off on the liability, or whether or not the issue is whether, the town should, the homeowner should be contributing to some of the cleanup. As a town, are we setting a precedent by fixing things on private property that?
Is this the woman that came in here?
Yeah.
With her
Yeah.
fence
She's losing
that was
half her
falling
yard.
down? Yes.
Yeah, so I know it's, the town attorney's been looking into that and have been asked for,
Well, as long as there's no, my concern is that there's no foot dragging.
I don't believe there's any foot dragging,
Okay,
but
all right, then that's good enough for me.
I think it's just an issue of untangling the legal ramifications of doing the work and who's liable, and if we do the work and then do we take ownership, and then if something happens, is it our liability versus the homeowner's liability? And right now, if it's on private property, it's their liability, but that doesn't do anybody downstream any good if the whole wall collapses. And it's an important area. I mean, if you've been out there, you can see.
Yeah,
that it's
no, it's got to be addressed.
pretty tenuous, and it won't take much of a storm or an event to make it worse.
All right, thank you.
Jill, anything?
None for me?
Joe? John? Okay. I've got a few things. Joe's not here, so I know he would ask about the Butler property. Have you spoken to, did we file anything on the land records?
No, but one of the things that we need to do, because, we last talked about it, in theory, the time. Sorry, the last time we talked about it, in theory, the time frame had not elapsed yet. It was, I think he technically had till December was the approval.
Okay.
So we have to go out again and just make a final inspection, verify that it's still, he hasn't done anything, and then we can go ahead and proceed with it. So it was obvious last time we met, he wasn't going to, that it wasn't going to be, there was, and I think his letter in September pretty much said, here's what I've done so far, and it's, it was stabilized, much better shape than it was when we first went out there, but there was still a lot of debris that had not been removed, and the homeowner's, defense was that, he had lost his job and wasn't able to take that back. So I think, the consensus was, rather than take him to court and try to get something that we probably wouldn't be able to get anyway, even if we got a court injunction, was to file something, a notice on the land record stating there was a violation. So if the situation got better or the property was transferred, then whoever would get a hold of the property would then at least have notice.
So who's going to go out there to check
We'll
that?
go out there.
Okay.
And,
So can we have
now we have
maybe an
someone at
update
Jim.
at our next meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
That's we can probably get. We probably don't have to go on his property to do that. I think there's a way
We
of
can go
accessing
down on
it.
the side, right?
On the side by
that
the end
town
of
owns.
Dinah Sharp. There's town property that
Right.
we can
That's how I did it.
access. So
Right.
we just.
Okay.
I mean, we all know it hasn't been done. It's just a question of if we ever get challenged on it, we have to say that before we filed anything, that we actually verified that the work had not been done.
Right,
You know,
you're going to take
for all I know-
photos, I'm guessing, and, right.
Yeah, we'll take photographs and document everything.
All right. My next question is, I know that P is no longer with us, so whoever's handling his job, are we gonna, we were supposed to have some kind of update as far as the culvert maintenance issue.
Oh, yeah.
Is that on the back burner now, or is that, you don't know?
I hadn't even thought about it, but it's a good point. I know they just, but I don't even think that's, I don't know who's gonna be taking that responsibility. I know Billy Taylor's the, sort of the acting director right now. They just hired a new assistant director, but I think he's more with buildings and grounds kind of issues and handling construction projects. I don't know whether that's going to be. I haven't even met him. He's that new, so. But I'll find. That's a good point. I'll find out.
Okay. And then, my only other question was, when was the fines issue going in front of the council, and you had mentioned.
Right. The council At a 5:30 meeting, I believe, on the 21st, we'll be discussing the fines ordinance with the three boards, at least the chairs, and anyone else is welcome to attend, I assume, to be there and support or ask questions if there's any questions that the council has. And regarding the process, I know Joe was the one that was most involved.
Right.
So I'll get a hold of him since he's not here tonight and let him know. But it'll be 5:30 p.m. on the 21st, the same night you're going to meet, probably downstairs, I assume.
Okay.
If not, but I'll get, when I get the final
Is
agenda.
that
I'll-
open to the public, or is that? you know?
Yes, I believe they're all,
Okay.
all meetings, that's not an executive session, so anyone's welcome to attend.
Okay.
It's not it's not a formal public hearing per se, I think they're still making that decision whether to send it to public hearing, but I think that's the opportunity for the various boards
Information gathering and, yeah.
to go there and make their case why they think that should go to public hearing for consideration of adoption.
Okay. That's all I have. Okay, approval of the November 15, 2000 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 15th, 2011 minutes.
Motion made by Jill, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
I need to seat Joe, I need to seat Joe Perello as a full voting member tonight. I should have done that at roll call, but we're going to do that now. Okay, so that's 4. Wetlands agent report. Do we have anything?
No, just it's been pretty slow, as you can tell. We haven't had any applications, even the building permit applications, the ones that were questionable, and I had Dave go out there, take a look at, turned out there were no wetlands, and basically confirmed that our maps really are not that good. So, really is nothing at this point nothing new to report. I think we have an agenda later on, talking about the map discussion, so we'll wait for that later on in the agenda.
Okay. Do you want to introduce Jim tonight?
Yeah.
maybe? Okay.
That'd be a good agent report. This is Jim Luzak, our new civil engineer slash environmental engineer. He's going to be also the acting inland wetlands agent, who will be attending your meetings, doing all the inspections. And Jim perhaps can give you a little bit of spiel on his background. The only thing is you're gonna need to appoint him as a wetlands agent.
Okay.
So you need to make a motion and do that. Jim still can't sign off on agent approvals. He's still going through the DP course, so I'll still be doing that, although he'll be doing all the, most of the inspections, because obviously he's more qualified than I am in environmental sciences, even though technically I'm a wetlands agent because I went through the DP course, but his background is more specialized in that respect than mine is. But I'll still be able to sign off on agent approvals while he's finishing up the requirements for the course.
Okay.
Jim, you want to quickly
Yeah.
let him know?
Good evening, nice to meet you.
Welcome.
My background started with the Soil Conservation Service, which is now the Natural Resource Conservation Service. I spent 13 years with them in various states. My last years with them were here in Connecticut. From there, I went on to private practice, started my own consulting company, did engineering, construction, and then, as the economy changed, the need to get back into a more regular job arose, and I had the opportunity to come to Enfield, and here I am.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, are you a soil scientist as well?
No, but I'm
No.
working for the Soil Conservation Service. I was involved in some of the mapping, helping people
Okay.
out. I worked with these people hand in hand for years.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with the soils and how they were mapped. All the information that we've gathered, that agency's gathered over the years, is pretty much what the wetland soils are based on. They are the ones who went around and said this is what a wetland soil is and what it
Right.
isn't. So that background, I think, will be valuable to this agency.
I think so, too. Especially as we're updating our maps, right, Jose?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
He has gotten a start on that and started bringing in data that I didn't know
That's great.
He knows where all that
Right.
information is.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Okay, old business, number 11, none. New business, none. Okay, number 13A, new applications to be received. A, Inland Wetlands 549, MTA Properties, John Morgan, AIA. 4380 square foot expansion to existing industrial building within a regulated area at 198 Freshwater Boulevard, map 55, lot 3. Applicant seeks reapproval of Inland Wetlands 420 dated September 9th, 2004. Was submitted January 23rd, 2012, received February 7th, 2012. PPE is 2/21/12, and MAD is 4/13/12. For the listening public, PPE is petitioning period ends, and MAD is mandatory action date. Do we have the applicant here?
Don't believe, maybe
No.
thought it was like planning and zoning, didn't feel he had to be at the receipt of
Yeah.
application.
Do you have any,
It's basically exact same approval that you approved over 5 years. When was the original date of that?
2004?
2004.
So
So
8 years ago.
Yeah, it expired. It's a building, if you can read that small map, it's a corner of the buildings within 100, it's not even in the wetlands, it's within 100 feet of a wetland. So at that time, they had approval. For various reasons, they didn't build it. Now they want to go ahead with it and need to get that approval reapproved. So if that's enough information for you to at least decide whether or not we need a public hearing, the applicant obviously will be here at the next meeting to fully present their application.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the original application was for an expansion of this industrial building.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you look at your map there,
Trying, it's very small.
it shows it, and that there's a little, you see there's a little wetland sort of isolated on the
Setback.
south side of the property, I believe. Do you have the map there with you? Or I
Oh, right
have it
here,
somewhere.
yes. Yeah, see it.
Where is it? I don't know. Yeah, there's a wetland on the south side of the property that's little, isolated. There's 100-foot, and there's a little corner of the new building that's within that 100-foot. So the building, most of that building is not even within the 100-foot regulated area.
So the footprint has not changed, nothing has changed in
No,
this
they're using,
application, okay.
in fact, the plans they submitted were copies of the plans that got approved
Okay.
last time. So, assuming, all the conditions, again, we'll send, at the next meeting, we'll give you copies of I don't know if we did in the packet, did we send them a?
Yeah, no, we have the,
You
well,
have
we
all
have
the
the
condition?
permit.
All
We
right.
have the original permit.
So, that's basically what we're gonna,
Can we, my question is, we've added some conditions to the permits since then?
yeah, we'll double check and see if there's any standard conditions that were added since then, and we'll make those recommendations at the next,
Okay.
we'll write a new
That
memo
would be
for
my
you.
suggestion, yeah.
We'll definitely have a new memo for you
Okay.
with new conditions.
So right now, tonight, we're only determining whether or not they need a public hearing.
Correct.
So does somebody want to discuss that?
I'll make a motion that we don't need a public hearing for inland wetlands permit number 549 MTA Properties.
Okay, motion made by Jill,
Second it.
seconded by Joe. Is there any discussion? No? All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. So we will see them maybe at the next meeting,
Hopefully they'll attend that one.
maybe. Yeah.
It'd be in their best interest to do so.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Inland Wetlands 550 Hazardville Water Company, drainage swale relocation and associated cuts and fills. Work required by DEEP, consent order number 11-049-008. Proposed activity within a watercourse and regulated area at 7A Kimberly Drive, map 86, lot 99. Submitted 1/27/12, received 2/7/12. PPE is 2/21/12, and MAD is 4/13/12. Nobody's here, right?
No one's here. Jen's been looking at that application, so if you want to just quickly summarize what they're doing and then why.
Okay. This application is from the water company, and they're under, what Jose said, they're under order from DEEP to relocate the stream. the current drainage swell is now cutting very close to their pump house, it's within 50 feet, and they have to get it away from there to protect the water supply. So they come up with a plan to relocate the swell more than 50 feet from the pump house to be in compliance. The plan that they submitted, I believe it's, is there a copy there?
The file should be here, right?
The file's here,
Is it with a, you mean with the, yeah,
right, oh, they didn't, that's right, they didn't do the full size.
I think there is.
yeah.
No, there isn't. Just the details, I think.
Oh, they have them, okay, you do have the full size set?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because my packet just had the details.
So you'll see, as I mentioned, that there's a 50-foot radius around the pump house. The current stream now is coming right to the side of it, and they want to bring it further away.
Okay.
And they're create a new channel, take the material from the new channel excavation and fill in the old channel. I believe that the plan they submitted is not adequate. There needs to be a lot more detail. And so I'm going to write a review letter to them, basically spelling out some of the things I think they should see on the plan. They have a real sketchy, literally sketchy cross-section. I think they need to be a
The
little more
silt fence,
detailed
yeah,
on
I saw.
what they're going to do. Also, I believe they should extend the work all the way to the confluence with Buckhorn Brook. I think it would be unwise to stop it short of it, 30 feet short. If they're going to armor the new channel, they might as well continue that armoring right to the confluence instead of leaving a place for erosion to occur. There was no seeding plan submitted either. I would suggest to them that they need to show what kind of plantings or seeding they're going to do, kind of erosion control measures they want to put in. Other than the hay bales, I think they need to do a little more work on that. So what I'll do is in the next week, I'll get them a letter as well as a letter to I'll bring that copy of that letter that I sent to them, bring that to the next meeting,
Okay.
and
We'll
hopefully
get
we'll
that
be
in
here
our
to answer
packets,
some
yeah.
questions. Yeah.
How much does the state weigh in, because it involves a public water supply?
Well, I think the weighs in quite a bit. They, in the interest of public safety, that stream needs to be away from the pump house, or the pump house has to be away from the stream.
Right, but I mean, as far as we're concerned, as a municipality, the state supersedes us, correct?
Well, not necessarily. The state basically says you got to get it away from the pump house. What
Right,
we're
but I
reviewing
mean-
is a method of doing so and making sure that the way they do so is going to protect our resources, which is the wetlands and Buckhorn Brook. So
But I guess what I'm asking is
the
how
review-
much
the
input
state doesn't
can we
review-
have?
Pardon?
I said, I guess what I'm asking is how much input can we have as a body? Because the state basically could supersede us.
Well, the state's basically, no, you you can't say no, you got to leave it where it is
No,
because.
I wasn't saying that.
But the state does not review the details. They're just going to say, get it away.
Right.
We don't care how you do it, but get it away. But
how they
go
do it
through
is
go
up to
through
us.
local,
Okay, all right.
get your approvals through a local agency to do so. So this is their plan for meeting the state's order. We're the ones who have to review the details, such as the grading plan, the soil and erosion control plan, and any kind of impacts it may have downstream to try to mitigate that. So our job is still to protect the resource.
Okay.
Under our wetlands. The state's protecting their resource, which is the water supply. They're just saying you gotta be so many feet away from there. They're not gonna review the details, how they do it. They just care that they meet the 50 foot. But if they're just gonna dig a trench in the ground and have
it go,
erosion, that's
yeah.
our concern, because that's gonna impact, Buckhorn Brook is gonna impact, the drainage that comes through there,
All right,
so.
thank you.
The consent order is in the package. Their consent order I included in there, and one of the provisions of the consent order is it has to meet the local regulatory agency's approval. So it's not, they don't supersede it.
given, right.
Yeah.
They're not looking at it from a wetlands protection point of view. They're looking at it from a water supply protection point of view.
I had a question as well, and I hope it's not just because I don't know about this so much yet, but why is there all of a sudden the erosion problem? Is it due to the new construction, or what has their pump house moved? Why is the stream coming closer where they would need to worry about the erosion?
Has it always been, I don't know. My guess is.
The reason why I asked this is years ago, Buckhorn Estates, when they got approved for all of their zoning and everything was approved for the whole development, the town approved everything. And so what responsibility is it for Hazardville Water Company to continue to, to make these changes when all the water came from that neighborhood that the town approved to begin with? So us as a municipality, what responsibility do we have towards Hazardville Water Company?
I'm not sure whether that's Brooks just been like that,
Yeah, I don't-
and the state just basically said, hey, it's too close, move it. My guess, it was a man-made ditch to start with. It's a swale that carries water, so it's not a natural stream. It's more of a.
But is the stream because of the problems that we had 20 years ago from Buckhorn Estates of building?
Buckhorn's downstream from that, so
Okay,
it's
so
not.
it
it's not
has
gonna-
nothing
and,
to
and
do-
Buckhorn, just to correct the Buckhorn, the town did not approve Buckhorn.
Okay.
That was a court case that was mandated. The judge pretty much said, "Here it is. You can't. I've looked through that file. It's one of the more heavy-handed court cases, and then if the town had appeal, we probably would have won. But anyway, they basically said, we're approving it as is. You can't. You got to issue permits. Case closed. So
I just didn't wanna put
that's why
everything
we
on
have the problems
Hazardville
we have
Water
nowadays.
Company if-
Because it really wasn't reviewed by town engineers, and the town actually denied it in the first instance, and we're told by a judge that we had to prove it
Right.
and with no input.
Thank you.
So
Okay. Do you have any questions? No? Okay. I agree with you, Jim. I mean, kind of sketchy information, so I think we need more to go forward. So tonight, we're determining whether we think this needs a public hearing or not.
Should I make the motion again?
Go right ahead. I can't.
I will make a motion to, for Inland Wetlands Number 550 Hazardville Water Company to not require a public hearing.
Okay, motion made by Jill. Seconded by Joe. All in favor? Okay. Anybody voting?
Sorry.
Are you all voting? Okay, 4. Okay. Okay. We are waiting for one more
Brian said he
member
was
to
coming.
go forward on the next application, yes.
Take a short
or-
recess if you want.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Sure.
Find out what the status is and resume? Okay, we're gonna take 5 minutes recess. Let me go. I got a text. 15 minutes, that was at 7:29.
what we could do, if you want to go out of order and discuss the map at this point, we could probably do so if you want to say, Yes, you can go make a motion, make a motion to go out of order. Okay, well, just declare the meeting back in session and then just make a motion to go out of order.
Okay, we're finished with our recess.
And I'm going to make a motion to move the item agenda for the inland wetlands official map update discussion.
Okay, so, okay, we're gonna move 14A, up on the agenda to discuss. Okay, motion made by Jill, seconded by Joe, all in favor? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Jose, what do you got for us?
Well, that's what Jim got for you. He's been working on
Jim.
it. He had
Yeah.
some observations on the map, and we've been discussing it also, so he can bring you up to date what he's looked at and what his observations are so far. But it's obvious our map is not very good. I mean, even when I sent out Dave on some of these areas that our GIS showed as wetlands and these, he as 100% green, he'd come back and say, there's no wetlands anywhere near here. These maps need some changes, so I know Jim's been looking at it, and I've looked at a couple of, even some of the new information we have to field verify, because there were some areas that we found that with the new information weren't quite accurate either, so we can take it from there.
Okay. I think we all could agree that producing a map that would be perfectly accurate for wetland delineation is probably impossible. It really is. The maps that we have now were based on a soil survey that was done by the USDA in the 60s. All of those soil surveys were revised throughout the years. Hartford County, for some reason, took the longest. It didn't actually get revised till, I think it was the mid to late 90s. So that data, the data that's on that map, on your current wetlands map, is from the 60s soil survey, as well as some USGS information. So it's a compilation of various sources. Not that any one of them was in error, but none of those sources were 100% accurate. They weren't. You couldn't possibly make a very perfectly accurate map. So the goal here is to make the most representative map we can, based on what the information that's available. So because wetlands by statute are defined by soil type, it would make, I think it would be a good idea to base the map truly on soil types. And the recent GIS data that's out there has all of those soil types accurately depicted. And again, they're not down to every foot, but maybe, every 100 foot they took a sample, they mapped the soil, they recorded that, and that's shown in the GIS data that's provided for the new soil survey. So it would be my suggestion that we look at that data and compare it to the old data, and maybe find something in between, because they are pretty much, they're different. You're going to see a big difference.
Jim, the difference that you're seeing?
Yeah, is your microphone on? Oh, sorry.
Jim, the difference that you're seeing, is it a result of original map inaccuracies, or is it a result of changing wetlands in the environment?
No, I don't think it was so much the changing in the environment. I think it's the level of technical.
Technology.
Yeah, technology. Again, technology. Historically, when a soil scientist went out to create that original soil survey in the 60s, he walked around, augured holes, and took samples and made notes. And then he took that map and took a map from the area and put an X on it and said, I made a hole right here, and I think there's a wetland here and not here. So, there's all kind of little rooms for little discrepancies in that kind of process. Now it's all done with GPS. The holes were, they took more holes, they took more shots. It's all tied in together. So it'd be a little bit more accurate as far as that. But again, it's random sampling. These maps aren't 100%. They're never going to have 100% accurate. But I think that using that soil data alone would be a better fit for a wetlands map.
Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're partially right. areas that were not built on, like the mall area,
Yeah.
show up as wetlands, and now, obviously, they're all parking, a lot of them are parking lots.
Right.
Some of the subdivisions that were built in the 60s, you know, the Wetlands Act didn't come into play till the 76. So anything built before then, there was a lot of filling. And so a lot of the areas that showed up on these maps as wetlands have in fact been built on, and are no longer considered wetlands. And I think that the way they're considered now, instead of calling wetlands, they're called Eudorthans, I think.
Eudorthans.
There's a different term for them.
Right.
That just classifies urban land or built land as a category of soil, which obviously is not a wetland type. You know, a parking lot would not be a wetland. It might still be in a floodplain, but it won't be considered wetland. It's all pavement.
And that's right. And that's something that you'll see a big difference in is there'll be a lot more of disturbed man-made soils classified on the new survey than it was the one from the 60s. So obviously you're going to have these areas that were all wetland soils in the old map, and now it's just completely blocked out because that's all been urbanized and disturbed and no longer is classified by the soil survey as a poorly drained or alluvial soil.
So a lot of these quarter-acre lots that showed up as 100% wetlands on our maps, and we had to hold up a, permit for a deck or a pool till we went out and took a look at it. Those will probably go off the map as being wetlands, unless obviously they have a water course or other feature like a nearby that requires protection. But for the most part, a pool in a backyard that's already been filled, and then a subdivision that's been disturbed by development in the 60s. Nowadays, there's probably no concern over wetland impacts at all for sheds or pools or decks. So at least that'll speed up some of those permit processes that we have to stop and take a look.
Now, what is the process to update the maps? How, is it just a matter of going on our website and certain areas you just change yourself, or?
We have the soil types. You can explain it. And I mean, he has the data that.
Yeah, all that data is out there. DEP has it on their website. The USDA has it on their website. This is all very public available information. So it's just a matter of pulling it together. But I'd like to provide you an overlay to see the old and the new, instead of just saying, well, here's the new one. I'd like to provide you both. And Jose and I did that quickly last week, and there was one spot, and he zoomed right in on it and said, well, that should be a wetland right there. And sure enough, he was right. The new data does have some inaccuracies, so it'll need some field checking and some common sense looking at, but I think for the most part, it'll be a better fit.
Now, is there a time frame that we think we can have this done? Is it months? Is it
No,
weeks?
That's just it's a question of getting the right data on a map and you approving that map.
Okay.
So it's the data's there in the computer. It's just putting it within our borders of Enfield. A lot of it's statewide data, right? And we just have to trim it to fit Enfield, so we don't have
And then we just approve it as the
Yeah,
commission?
you will.
and-
You'll get a map that we'll show you, and then you'll vote to approve that map, just similar to what we have on our walls now.
and I think the question
official.
really to the agency is, do you want that map to be based on the current soil data only? I think that's really the question. Do you want it to be that?
What's the alternative?
The alternative is a mix between the old data and new data, or some.
But if an applicant sees an inconsistency between what they observe in the field and what's depicted on the map, I mean, can they challenge the accuracy of the map?
Well,
Absolutely, you're
Yeah,
always
the-
going to have that.
the map is again, is always going to be a general, because it could be off of, as much as 5, 10, 15, 20 feet, at that scale that it's observed. All it does is narrow it down to say, okay, you got to go out, get a soil scientist, hire a soil scientist to actually flag it. And that's usually for the big projects. And they're going to hire a soil scientist, and they're going to get it down to the inch almost,
Yeah, any larger
And-
scale project is still going to need it to be, have a soil scientist on site and provide a localized map of the wetlands. No map that we can provide is going to take the place of that. What I
It's
think
still-
what's more useful for is what Jose alluded to, is the additions, the garages, those kind of small things where we look at the map and say, well, you may have a little concern here, we'll go look at it, or no, you're not even close to anything, so we're good to go.
We just sign off as soon as we get the building permit notification on my screen. That's what I'm gonna bring up our GIS. If I see nothing on it, I just, no wetlands, good to issue the building permit from my perspective. If I see green, now I have to say stop. We're gonna do a site inspection whenever lately it's been whenever Dave could get out there. Now we have somebody on staff, could probably go out there a little quicker, but having a good map to start with will avoid a bunch of those inspections where they're not really needed.
And so as applicants come to us and it's determined, yes, it does have wetlands, no, it doesn't, and our map might be inaccurate, is that information updated? How does that work?
No, the map is, and there's a disclaimer always on it. You know,
is a way.
sometimes it's you know, you're gonna mix apples and oranges because you're gonna, I guess in the digital age, if we had all that information and we could sort of update each parcel as we got it, it wouldn't match very well with what else is around it, so, but we do have the maps on file, so for any given property, if there's already been, and the first thing I do is, if I see one of those green spots, is I go to building department, see if there's a building permit been issued previously for anything, and if a wetlands agent went out and took a look. So if I see that
Okay.
wetland agent went out and, you know, Katie Bednaz had signed off on it back in '93, there's no wetlands, I'm not gonna go back out there and take a look. So we do have the accurate data, same thing with any major project like Eppendorf.
Right.
We have a
It's in the
accurate
file.
map of record on file that shows exactly where those wetlands lines are. We know when they come in for an addition, we can pull the old file and say, you're gonna be within 100 feet or not, you're not gonna be within 100 feet. So we're always gonna rely on the most accurate data we have. Again, the map that we put out there is more for, there may be, you know, for when someone's in the planning stages and they come to meet with us and say, okay, what I need to do this over here, and we can say, well, it looks like you got some wetlands on that property, you should really hire a soil scientist to find out exactly how much land you got to work with
Okay.
before we, you know, versus, you know, if it's totally clean, we can say, you know, no need to hire soil scientists if you're not gonna be anywhere near any wetlands. So it's used for our purposes to advise people and for people to look on, you know, somebody, you know, real estate agent or something looking at an empty piece of property. If they see a lot of green on there, they're gonna raise some questions, probably call us and say, what's the implications of that for building? And, you know, we can give them a general assessment, but bottom line is, until you get a soil scientist out there, but, you know, people make decisions. If it's 100% green, they may not want to go through the process of hiring a soil scientist if they believe that data is accurate. If it's questionable, they're out on the site and they sort of do you know, say, well, geez, you know, I've been out there, looked at it, doesn't really look like it, then they can hire a soil scientist. And sometimes soil scientists will go out there and do a quick assessment for people doing appraisals with the caveat that, you know, I really need to get in there with an auger and a spade and do, but sometimes they'll be able, by looking at vegetation and walking a piece of property without doing be able to advise people on it. So that map is used really to sort of get that first cut
And the reality,
assessment.
reality of that is a soil scientist is gonna grab the soil survey, the first thing before he leaves the office, to go out to a site, to say, well, you know, what should I be expecting to find out here based on the soil survey? And if our map is based on the soil survey, then
Be pretty
then we're
accurate.
already in line with each other, so.
Aren't our current maps, weren't they based on DEP data?
No, they're-
And so I'm trying to understand, accuracy is my worry here, if you would. Because we've had instances before where an application come in, we would say, hey, it looks like there's wetlands there's never been wetlands there. How are we making this better, actually? So the maps were first generated in a very similar way that we're thinking about generating them today, based on DEP, soil surveys.
You missed this first part.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I came in late. so
Explain how they were.
That's
I
fine.
tried to watch it on my thing while I was driving on the road. but
It's on YouTube, yeah.
Didn't work out well.
No, what I had stated was that the current map was based on the USDA Soil Conservation Service soil survey for Hartford County.
Right.
That was done in the 60s.
Right.
Okay, all of those surveys were redone throughout the years, Hartford County being the very last one that just got completed in the mid to late 90s. I don't know the exact year. So there was changes between those two additions. And so bringing our map current with the Hartford County Soil Survey, the latest one, I think would be a more accurate map than what we have now.
I think that overlay is going to be a really good idea. It'll be really telling to see what the differences are.
And I don't know if you were here for the other part.
Probably not.
What you're going to see is the areas that, when they redid the survey, there were subdivisions that were urban lands. Those soils were classified as eudorthans,
Right.
which is disturbed urban soils.
Right.
So where you had big stretches of green in the first map, now you're going to have a big hole in it, because that when the new survey came through, they said, well, hey, this is a subdivision. We're not even going to poke around in here. We're just going to call it urban disturbed land. So
Okay.
Yeah, roads were built through it, parking lots, houses, and drainage. I mean, if you go along some of these streets, you can see how they have that little roller coaster, driveway, house, driveway, house.
Yep.
And you can see where the house was
Lots of those.
filled, so it looks like a little roller coaster up and down the road. And that's the pattern.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is 13C. I'm going to be recusing myself from this application. Jill's going to go forward with it due to a conflict of interest with the applicant. We do business with them.
Okay, so next on the agenda, inland wetlands number, oh, wait a minute, sorry. Inland wetlands number 456-R.02, Carl Nelson Construction Corporation, modification of approved permit number 456 dated March 8th, 2006, to remove approval condition number 17, requirement of a 6-foot-high fence at 215 State Street. Map number 35, Lot 250. Submitted 2/1/12, received 2/7/12, PPE 2/21/12, and MAD 4/13/12. Do we have any discussion on this?
We do have the applicant here, I think. The only, just kind of summarize what you can summarize, Carl, what you're asking for, but we're not going to make a decision. The only decision tonight is whether or not we need a public hearing. So, for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, the property immediately to the left is not constructed yet, correct?
That's correct.
And there was an existing house after that, and then there was a new house after that that was constructed.
Right.
Right. It's a 4-lot subdivision, 3 new lots and 1 existing lot, correct?
That's right.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Carl Nelson from Carl Nelson Construction. Yeah, just a quick history. That was a piece of land we purchased, I think, in '04. There was an existing house on it, and we looked to have 3 new lots. And the lot that I'm looking to get the modification for, at the time, the Wetlands Commission asked us to put a 6-foot fence behind it, which borders the house yard and the conservation area. And what I'd like to do is not put that fence up. I don't really see a need for it. We have this conservation signs, and I don't think the fence would stop anyone from putting something into the regulated area, because they could go to one side or the other of the fence. It only borders the side and rear of the property. If you have any questions, I'd be try to answer them for you.
Any questions?
I have a question for Jose. Jose, if I'm reading this right, I realize I'm new to Enfield, but I'm not new to the way things work. But is it even within our realm as an Inland Wetlands Commission to make somebody put up a fence? I mean, especially a chain link fence. What's that going to do?
I wasn't, again, this was, as you can see, it was a couple of wetland agents ago and boards ago, so it was obviously something that I wasn't at the hearing, it was discussed, it must have been discussed at the hearing, and I don't know what
At the time, they were
sort of belt and suspendering it. I mean, we've required, normally we require conservation markers, and I think they're required of everything else over there.
they're across the
And
property.
so this is the only property that they required a fence, and I'm not sure why that was the only one. I mean, I would think that it's sort of my guess is it was an additional protection from homeowners encroaching on the escarpments. That's pretty steep back there, but other than, I mean, you know, you got the markers and you got the edge of woods. I'm not sure whether that.
Oh,
There's nothing in our regs saying that. I mean,
And were you here then?
so
no, way too young for that. What are you laughing at?
so I don't know. I can't answer that question whether it's.
But in the
whether or not-
past, and I know recently we did a project on the other side of town. While we didn't require a fence, we did require some kind of delineation. And what they were going to do is put up something like they do in the parks, which was just a kind of a post and something, not really a fence, not like a 6-foot anchor fence, though. That seems kind of silly. The goal was really just to show people that where the line was, and within the deed process, they were putting something in there to say what the conservation easement was all about, a little education. The villages, we were doing it with the villages.
Yeah.
And we had it wasn't a fence, but it was almost like something you'd see at a state park parking lot, so you couldn't pull past a certain point. And it had markers on it to say that,
It does have the markers out there. I
Right.
mean, and we provide them. There's circular markers that say conservation area, and then they're out, you know, there are attached to, the requirement, I think, in the conditions was where if there wasn't any trees or anything to attach them to, then we would have a post or something similar to what you said, where those markers could
Like
be.
4x4s or
attached, so it's a
something?
Yeah, they were
yeah,
4x4s on the
and
ground.
it's-
They were
there's a
very nice
visual,
looking.
something that someone can
So-
see that there's markers, conservation area. It is on the map on file, and I think the language of the conservation easement is also on file, although didn't we check the existing house and there was either not picked up on that deed or,
Think about that.
Okay.
Went down to the town clerk's office just to get some background on this application. The conservation easement was filed separately than the lots themselves. And so the only mention on a per-lot basis, you know, each one of these lots, the only mention of any kind of this conservation is that, that standard blurb that you
Right.
you have for, I don't have it in front of me, but, oh, it's on the,
it's on the subdivision map.
on the
But-
subdivision
but,
map, yeah,
yeah.
just this little standard blurb. Instead of it's actually saying, this property is restricted by a conservation easement, see page and book and page in the town clerk's office, it just says kind of a general, this is subject to a conservation easement. So,
Yeah, it probably should refer back, but
Yeah, it
but that's, you know, title searchers should pick up the, you know, if they're doing their job, they should see the map on file and note it to their clients that they, hey, you know, that's part of what a good attorney will do, is sit down with you before you sign the papers and say, here's the restrictions on this property, here's the subdivision map on file that it has a conservation easement on it, and so the client should understand. If not, they usually call my office. A lot of them do call the office and say, hey, there's a conservation easement. What does that mean? What can I do? What can I, you know, most people will call the office and ask, and we'll go take out the language, and they're pretty much standard. Some of them are vary depending on the situation, but pretty much standard language that our town attorney draws up. And
in my opinion on that is that everything is in order. Could it be clearer? I think there's many mechanisms that can make it a no-brainer that if you picked up the deed for any one of those lots, you would know that there was a conservation easement on it. I don't think that's what you see when you pick up that deed now, but if a good lawyer did some digging, would find the two are connected, so.
should be. But, you know, I guess it's
I
a
had
roundabout
another
answering your
question.
question. It's not a standard practice to require fences. You know, it is sort of like a belt and suspenders.
Is it a new house that you're building there?
It's
Yeah,
built, it's already
how
there.
this came about was we got the CO for the house, and I wanted to get a waiver for this condition, and I didn't put up the fence, so I had to post a bond for Jose to sign off, you know, post a bond so that the fence could be done if it
Right.
was determined that it had to be. And that's how this procedure came about. You know, I was looking for that waiver.
I had a question that you just touched on a little bit. Now, the other houses weren't required, or the other lots weren't required fences. And you mentioned something about the steepness behind there. I mean, why, do you know any reason why the other houses wouldn't have required, or the other lots? And just that one, is there a different in
All
the
the
depth
lots
down
have
to the?
the same drop-off behind them. This was a small lot, there's a small yard, but the edge of the yard is the tree line, and the conservation signs are posted on that, on the border of the property.
Right,
But
so you
it's the
think
smallest
they're all
lot.
the same steepness, it's just this one is maybe a shorter lot, closer
Right,
towards the house?
Right, there's
Okay.
less
Closer to the embankment.
backyard.
Not-
to this
It's not
one.
as deep, and perhaps I'm just looking at that little, the lot next to it, perhaps the woods were not as deep on this one as they were on the other ones. And I think you're right, the edge of woods is definitely defined, there are some trees there, and then it obviously drops right off. It's a pretty steep drop off. Actually, and some off to the west is not as steep as it is in the back. It's more of a gradual slope down to the Waterworks Brook area, but so I don't know. It does look even steeper on the if you look at the lines on the adjacent lots, they're closer together, so there's a lot steeper drop off. But
Jose, let me ask you a question. By today's standards, this is 8 years ago that this was done. By today's standards, is Mr. Nelson compliant? Did he put up the little plaques like the town gave him and
yeah,
everything?
he did everything but the fence, and that's what he needed a CO. He wanted to move somebody in right away. So, I said, look, this is what the conditions are. Says I can't. I said, here's what I'll do. If you put up a bond, I'll sign off on the CO, and then you could come in and ask the commission if they want to waive that requirement. They do, we'll give him his bond back. But if they not, he can build a fence. And then we'll give him his bond back,
We're
because he
just
probably could
supposed-
do it cheaper than we can.
The only problem is we've done something on a previous application where we required someone on an approved application to do something different, not a fence, but something different to delineate the conservation easement from the backyard. So we at least should consider that when we talk about this next week. 'cause
Next
we're just
week, yeah.
trying to figure out if we're going to
And
have
if you want, we can go,
public hearing,
there
right?
are,
I just wanna make sure we're consistent, that's
and
all.
if you want to go out there, I'm sure do you have somebody already moved in, or?
Yeah, we have a tenant for
What I'm
that.
saying.
Part of the problem is
You can go out and
with
take a
the
look
way
at
the
it.
economy has gone, we haven't been able to sell the house, so we're
Yeah.
renting it. So I'm just trying to keep my costs down also, I think at the time I agreed because the economy was good, and we figured, well, that's something we can add into the cost of the house. Now we can't sell the house, and I'm trying to reduce the cost of it.
Well,
And there are markers out there, so you can, perhaps if you have a chance to go out there and take a look.
Yeah, even if you drive by, the yard
You
isn't
can
that
sort of
deep, you can see them from the road, or you can walk out.
And if you like, we can take some pictures too.
Yeah, I could bring in.
but he's going to, Mr. Nelson's going to be at the next meeting, and we're going to
Yes,
just,
and we're going to discuss, right now, we just need to
We could
determine whether or
discuss
not
it,
we have
we
a
can
public
close it
hearing
out.
or not.
So,
it's all going to be settled next week.
Next meeting, yes.
okay, so we're just motioning this evening whether or not we need to go to a public
Public
hearing.
hearing,
So do
thank
we
you.
have a motion?
I'm going to make a motion that there's no need for a public hearing on this.
Okay, motion by Joe Perillo, seconded by John Ungar. Everybody approving?
Yeah, there's no reason.
None?
There's no butters.
Against? Okay.
Thank you.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion, we adjourn. Yeah, hurry up.
I will second that motion.
Oh, she's back.
We will adjourn. Let me slam that down.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by Jill. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you at the next meeting. We're adjourned.
Next time, Joe.